Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is my second lecture on Russell's essay Intellectual Rubbish. Let's begin with first paragraph. Myths about race and blood. There are many myths about blood and race, and in some countries race and blood is the sign of superiority also, and it is supposed that blood has some curious and polluting influence apart from inhuman activities of killing deliberately, and women are also considered in polluted state after childbirth until they participate in some special prayer, because blood is involved in the process of childbirth, and it comes out of the body of females after childbirth. So they were considered polluted state. And talking about America, the Red Cross, an organization working for taking blood and providing blood to the needy people, that organization, Red Cross, they decree that no Negro blood should be used in giving transfusion to white Americans. Blood cannot be transmitted, the Negro's blood, to the white people. Negro are the black Indians, the black people living in America, and they are given inferiority complex, and white people they think they are superior. They are superior in their race, in their color. That's why it became a general idea that the blood of Negro, they didn't allow for transfusion at all. And the superiority of certain races over other is again a mythical superstition, as it is a notion that male is more intelligent than the female, and there is no base and evidence of this notion. It may be true in one or two or in some cases, but doesn't mean it has universal appeal or it is always true. Like, these are irrational beliefs. And another example is that in Japan, the people with yellow complexion is considered to be the mark of superiority. So then there are some notions regarding the gold and some precious stones. Gold and stones are given value, and they are considered very precious. The gold is a metal. There are a lot of other metals also available in the world, but gold is more priceful, it is more costly. And what happened in World War? In World War, the conquerors of World War, they demanded indemnity from the defeated nations in gold rather than in commodities. So commodities were not demanded from defeated nations for their protection, but gold was demanded. Now the question is that if too much gold was demanded and now no commodity was demanded, how it was possible to spend life without commodities and on the basis of gold only? So it is now became a worthless idea, It may be true at that time because gold was rare at that time, but now we can see gold everywhere in markets. Second paragraph is about false maxims. There are many false maxims and they are considered universal and universally true. But Russell says they are also false beliefs. For example, the first maxim is that human nature cannot be changed. And on the basis of this notion, the idea of was generated, and it was considered that war is inevitable and indispensable, that it is a necessity of life. But according to anthropology, human nature differs widely in different communities. For example, there is a community in the world that they lend their wife to their guest and they consider it is necessary for hospitality. So it may be a shameful act for many communities of the world, but for that particular community it is a sign of hospitality. Another thing is infanticide, killing the child before birth. It has been prevalent in many countries, and Plato also recommended it a remedy against overpopulation, that if countries want to control their population, then they must allow infanticide, the killing of child before birth. Also, food and sex, they were regarded as unnatural by the hermits of Thebes. They said that food must be cut down to the minimum state and sex must be entirely avoided, because it is the sign of the overpopulation. And now it is the responsibility that of governments that they should modify the beliefs of the people and they must alter the human nature. So what was considered that human nature cannot be changed, and a lot of beliefs they came into existence on the basis of this notion. Now it is the responsibility of government to modify them. So as the fighting the war is concerned, as we have also studied in previous essays of Russell, that the people think, there are a lot of people in the world, they think that war is the part of their history and it must be fought for the outlet of superfluous energy of mind, for the outlet of emotions, for psychological balance. It is a necessity of life. But remember that wars are fought by misleading common people. The higher authorities, the officials, for their own disputes, for their own selfish motives, they involve common people to fight war. And what is the result of these wars? Only sufferings and sufferings for the common people, and they didn't have any selfish motive, and still they involve in wars. Let me give you an example of Sweden. And Sweden has not participated in war for 2 centuries. For 2 centuries, Sweden has not participated in any war, and they are still psychologically fit. It doesn't mean that they are deprived of any alleged requirement of human nature. They are also human beings. They have human nature, but they are not psychologically disturbed nation. Swedes, they are still alive. They are still part of the history without any war. So there are some notions about the difference of natural and unnatural. For example, birth control has been opposed by some religions on the plea that it is against nature. Some religions consider it unnatural to control the birth. Even the Malthus, who was the first intellectual to ponder seriously over the population problem, he showed the same attitude, although he was first to ponder on the problems of overpopulation. So it is again against common sense to hold that more mouths do not matter. The birth of more and more children do not matter, because God would send food to fill them. So according to Russell, this notion is also wrong, because millions of people would not have died for starvation if we consider this notion correct. Next paragraph is about preventive measures. Russell said that whenever someone present these notions in front of us, we shouldn't believe blindly without inquiry, discovery, and investigation. The verification and observation is necessary before believing. So one should make the observation himself. Aristotle, for example, once Aristotle said that women have fewer teeth than men. I think Aristotle is a great philosopher. He may have presented this idea just to check the mind of the people, whether they investigate, whether they observe, whether they verify, or they just count it correct without any verification. So, but Russell says that if he had bothered to count the teeth of his wife, he may have avoided this belief. Means he should have verified this. So there were some notions about salamanders and unicorns, the evils related to fire. They are also considered their existence, that they really exist in the world. And although they were just presented in literature, the idea of salamanders and unicorns was just presented, but the people believe on their existence. So Russell is totally against dogmatism. One should not be dogmatic in his beliefs. Means if you are undogmatic, if you believe, if you have beliefs but you are mentally undogmatic, that you are ready to inquire, to investigate, or to change your beliefs according to time, when your beliefs are proved wrong by someone, you will consider it. It means you are undogmatic, and this is what Russell demands. Because dogmatism can be prevented by associating with a circle which hold different viewpoints from one's own. So if you have concern with some people and they hold different point of view than you, it means you will listen them and you will consider them valuable, that you will not be dogmatic. And what is the reason of superstitions? We also studied in Bacon's essay of superstition that fear is the main reason of these false beliefs, of these superstitions. So one must conquer fear, which is a fertile source of wrong beliefs. Now let's discuss the last paragraph, is the lighter side. There are a lot of funny notions of the people discussed by Russell here. and it's just a lighter side, mean for the sake of fun only, that how people believe. Russell said that conformity has its dangers, and non-conformity also have its peculiar pitfalls. It doesn't mean if you have different notions from the traditions or traditional peoples, then you are always right. No, there are a lot of possibilities of errors. You may be wrong if you have some modern point of view, and you may become crank by studying these fallacious beliefs, and by holding some new point of view you may become crank. For example, he gave the example of a crank. He said that once a crank told me that he could understand only one sentence in all his work. And what is that sentence? Namely, that Julius Caesar is dead, and that it was wrong since he himself was Julius Caesar. The crank said that I am the Julius Caesar, and I just remember only one sentence which from your work, and which is the death of the Julius Caesar. So it is just funny that he himself started considering Julius Caesar. So even Russell says that about superstitions. Russell points out that they are not all dark and cruel, but some of them add to a gaiety of life. So some superstitious beliefs are just a source of laughter and fun. For example, he said that once a person communicated and claimed to be the god Osiris. The mortal person, a man, he claimed to be the god Osiris. Another example, he said that once an American wrote me that he is the Messiah of the world, and the person suggested that Russell must mention this fact in his lectures. Russell must tell the people, the students in his lecture, that there is a person in America who is the Messiah of the world. So there are also superstitions in England regarding itself as the 10 lost tribes. So there were 10 tribes lost in the history, and now there are people in the world, in England, that they claim that they are those, they belong to those 10 tribes. And the very funny example, the most funniest example he gave, that once a lady claiming himself the priestess, who claimed that she could walk on water. She claimed that she was a priestess, and she claimed that she could walk on the water. And when a demonstration was arranged and she was asked to give the demonstration of walking on the water, she turned to the people and asked a question, whether they really believed that she could do so. The people said, yes, we believe. And she answered that in that case there was no need for her to give a proof. It means when people believe that she can do so, then what is the need of demonstration? And students, same is happening in the world. The people starts believing on these false beliefs, and they don't demand demonstration, they don't inquire, they don't investigate, and they are just believing. And it is a continuous process from our forefathers and still exist in the world. So here I end the essay intellectual.